Urgent Dallas Cowboys fans, do not miss this. What just happened? You won't believe this one. But before we reveal the big news, make sure to subscribe to the channel because here we bring you daily videos with the latest Dallas Cowboys updates. And to not miss anything, activate the notifications. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a story that's been gripping the Cowboys community and honestly the entire NFL landscape. It's a story filled with tension, talent, injury setbacks, and perhaps a chapter nearing its end. We're talking about Trevon Diggs, the cornerback who burst onto the scene with such promise, and now seems to be embroiled in a saga that could change the future of his career and maybe even the Dallas Cowboys secondary. So, buckle up because what I'm about to tell you is not just a simple update. This is a comprehensive, detailed analysis of everything that's happening behind the scenes, what it means for the team, and where this story might be headed. To start, let's cast our minds back a few years. Trevon Diggs, a player drafted in 2020, quickly made a name for himself in the NFL. Coming out of Alabama, he was seen as a player with high potential, especially because of his ball skills and playmaking ability. But it was in his second season in 2022 that Diggs truly exploded into the national spotlight. That year, he led the league with 11 interceptions, including 2 pick sixes, which are always highlight reels for any fan. Imagine the energy he brought to the Cowboys secondary, those game-changing plays, the momentum swings, and the confidence he injected into the defense. That season was without a doubt his breakout. And many saw him as a future All-Pro, possibly even a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. But of course, in the NFL, greatness often comes with a price. And for Diggs, that price was injury. Just before the start of the 2023 season, in a crucial practice session ahead of Week 3, he tore his ACL. Now, ACL injuries are among the most serious for football players, especially cornerbacks who rely heavily on explosiveness, lateral quickness, and cutting ability. The injury was a huge blow, not just physically, but psychologically. The recovery process is long and arduous, often taking a year or more to fully regain pre-injury form. And that's exactly what happened. Diggs returned to play in 11 games last season, but unfortunately, another knee injury cut his season short. That was another setback, another frustrating chapter in what has been a turbulent period for him. Now, we've arrived at 2025 and things have taken a turn that's captured everyone's attention. The ongoing tension between Trevon Diggs and the Dallas Cowboys has become a major talking point. The core of this drama is centered around whether Diggs is truly healthy enough to contribute on the field and whether his recent performances and behavior suggest a player who might be heading for a departure from Big D. Recently, the news broke that Diggs, now 27 years old, claimed to be in good enough shape to play in Sunday's loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Yet, despite this, the Cowboys front office and coaching staff, led by owner Jerry Jones, have maintained a different stance. They insist that Diggs is not yet ready to return. This discrepancy has ignited a firestorm of speculation. On one side, you have Diggs asserting his readiness, perhaps feeling that he's been unfairly sidelined or that he's eager to showcase his talent. On the other, you have the Cowboys management, particularly Jerry Jones, who's been known for his no-nonsense approach, emphasizing that players must meet certain health thresholds before stepping back onto the field. When asked about Diggs' absence, Jones did not hold back, offering a pointed critique that reveals the underlying tension. "Players always want to return fast," Jones said on 105.3 The Fan with Trevon Diggs. He said his play style requires a certain level of health. Diggs will go away from the scheme to make a great play. When he doesn't make that play, you can have a bad play. This statement is loaded with implications. First, it shows that the coaching staff values scheme discipline and consistency. Diggs, renowned for his ball-hawking skills, has a style that involves taking risks, going for interceptions, breaking on routes, and sometimes freelancing a bit to make a splash play. But Jones seems to suggest that such aggressive play comes with risks, especially if the player isn't fully healthy. The comparison with Micah Parsons' past criticisms is telling. Parsons, known for his relentless pass rushing and willingness to push the boundaries of the scheme, has been allowed to play more freely. Diggs, however, appears to be held to a different standard now, as the team seems wary of his injury history and perhaps his recent form. Diggs' 2022 season was extraordinary, but recent stats paint a more cautious picture. Over the past 3 years, according to Pro Football Focus, he's only recorded 6 pass breakups on 668 coverage snaps, which is a significant drop from his first 3 seasons when he had 31 pass breakups over 1,751 snaps. This downward trend correlates closely with his ACL injury and subsequent setbacks. It suggests that Diggs may have lost some of the explosiveness and closing speed that made him such an elite ball hawk. His ability to read the quarterback, close in on the ball, and make those game-changing plays has diminished, which raises questions about whether he's still the same player who led the league in interceptions. Statistically, his current season performances reinforce these concerns. In 2025, he's yet to defend a pass, and his last pass breakup was in Week 14 of the previous season. More alarmingly, when targeted, he's allowing an average of 19.6 yards per reception, and a passer rating of 154.9. Both figures are well above league averages and suggest that he's struggling to keep up with top receivers. These numbers are especially troubling for a player who once prided himself on coverage ability and ball skills. It begs the question, is Trevon Diggs still the same player who made highlight reel plays? Or has the injury and perhaps some mental fatigue impacted his performance? And here's where things get even more complicated. The question of whether Diggs will be activated off injured reserve before Saturday's game is critical. If he isn't, he'll revert to season-ending IR and the Cowboys will face a tough decision. Do they move on from him entirely, or do they give him another shot after he recovers? The relationship between Diggs and the Cowboys seems to be reaching a breaking point. The tension is palpable, and once Diggs is cleared to speak freely, it's likely he'll share his side of the story, perhaps criticizing management, questioning the team's handling of his injuries, or expressing frustration with how he's been used. Now, let's take a step back and look at this from a broader perspective. The Cowboys have always been a team that emphasizes discipline, scheme fit, and a certain philosophy on player health and performance. Diggs' style of play, while exciting and game-changing, also involves high risk, going for interceptions, freelancing, taking chances. But with his recent injury history, the team might feel that his aggressive approach is not sustainable at this stage of his career, especially if it compromises team success. The coaching staff might prefer a more disciplined and structured approach, relying on players like Stephon Gilmore or other corners to maintain consistent coverage rather than risk further injuries or costly plays. Furthermore, the team's defensive scheme has evolved over the last few seasons. Under defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, the Cowboys have relied heavily on a mix of zone coverage and pressure packages that require discipline and trust in the scheme. Players like Parsons and others have been allowed to freelance to an extent, but the core structure remains vital. Diggs' reputation as a ball hawk who sometimes goes rogue could be at odds with that philosophy, especially if his health isn't guaranteed. The tension isn't just about one game or one injury. It's about the future of the secondary, and how much trust the team is willing to place in a player who appears to be struggling to replicate his past form. Looking at the bigger picture, it's worth considering how this situation impacts the Cowboys' chances in the NFC West and their quest for the playoffs. The NFC is competitive and every game counts. Losing a talent like Diggs, whether temporarily or permanently, could weaken the secondary at a critical juncture, but keeping him in the lineup without full health could also lead to more costly mistakes and potentially more injuries. It's a delicate balancing act, and the team's front office and coaching staff are surely weighing their options carefully. The upcoming games will be telling. The Cowboys face tough opponents in the coming weeks, and the secondary's performance will be under scrutiny. If Diggs is activated and can replicate some of his 2022 magic, it could provide a major boost. But if he continues to struggle, the team might have to consider alternative options or even move on from him in the off-season. This could be a defining moment not only for Diggs, but for the Cowboys' defensive identity moving forward. Now, let's compare Trevon Diggs to other top cornerbacks in the league. It's not just about raw talent. It's about consistency, health, and scheme fit. Players like Jalen Ramsey or Sauce Gardner have shown that elite corners can maintain high levels of play despite injuries or scheme changes. Diggs, on the other hand, seems to be at a crossroads. His early career trajectory was meteoric, but recent stats and injuries suggest a decline. Whether he can bounce back, regain his explosiveness, and re-establish himself as a top-tier corner remains to be seen. From the perspective of NFL analysts, and media opinions are divided. Some believe that Diggs is simply going through a slump, that with proper healing and confidence, he will return to form. Others argue that the injury has exposed limitations and that the Cowboys need to reconsider his role or even move on. The relationship seems strained and the narrative is leaning toward a potential breakup whether in the immediate future or after the season. Looking ahead, what can we expect? First, the Cowboys' medical and coaching staff will likely prioritize his health. If he's cleared, he might see some action in the next game, but it's crucial that he's fully recovered and able to perform at the level the team expects. If not, he'll remain on IR and the team will have to decide whether to keep him around for the long haul or cut ties to move forward. This situation also raises questions about team culture, player management, and how to handle talented but injury-prone players in a highly competitive environment. In a broader sense, this entire saga highlights how fragile careers can be in the NFL. One moment, you're a rising star, and the next, injury and circumstances threaten to derail everything. It also underscores the importance of strategic decision-making, balancing talent, health, team chemistry, and long-term goals. The Cowboys' defense, which has long been their strength, might be facing a transitional phase with the Trayvon Diggs story at its core. To wrap this up, I want you to think about this. How will the Cowboys handle this situation? Will Diggs be able to overcome these setbacks, or is this the beginning of the end of his time in Dallas? The answers aren't clear yet, but one thing is certain. This story isn't over, and it's going to be fascinating to watch how it unfolds in the coming weeks. The NFL is always unpredictable, and the Cowboys' defense might just be at a pivotal moment. Now, before I finish, I want to remind you this story is still developing. Keep your eyes glued here because I'll be back with updates, analysis, and all the latest news on the Cowboys and Trayvon Diggs. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned because we're just getting started with what could be a defining chapter for Dallas. Secondary. Pause here just for a second if you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Dallas Cowboys news to you. It's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead. It's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now, let's continue with the big reveal. And now, Dallas Cowboys fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on all of this? Do you believe Diggs can bounce back and reclaim his status as one of the league's top corners? Or do you think this situation is heading toward a messy breakup? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion really matters to us and to the Cowboys. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates. So stay tuned for the latest Dallas Cowboys news.